Hello and welcome back to the Into the Adultverse podcast, everybody. Today we've got a super special guest on today. His name is Cyrus Belsoi, straight from the University of Maryland itself. Cyrus is, a good friend of ours, and he actually has his own podcast, the whoami.podcast. He actually initially reached out to me to be on his podcast, and that's how we kind of got acquainted. We met in SF. There's a whole story. Super special dude, and so hopefully we're having a beautiful episode today with a beautiful person. We're gonna be talking a little bit about some of Cyrus's interests, including, why he cares so much about empathy, how to bring your authentic self to everything, and, a little bit about some of the pivots in his life as he went from pre-med to world of product. So yeah, excited for the episode and excited to have you on. Thank you so much, Cyrus.
Yo, what's up, everyone? How are y'all? Awesome. So I think just to kick it off, thank y'all for having me. It's been a fun time knowing Fuad Damien. Fuad was actually the first person I interviewed on my podcast, so definitely go check that out if you want to hear Fuad talk about how amazing he is, rightfully so.
Oh man, you don't want to hear that.
No, but definitely happy to be here.
Man, this guy came in, took over, already has us laughing. This is crazy.
It's insane. The good vibes, bro. The good vibes. I don't know this is a lot over an internet connection.
Sick. But I love what's happening here though. And the reason I love it is because Cyrus is internet friend number 2 to have on the podcast. Because Lynn was kind of number 1, right? And yeah, it's cool. There's the people are kind of struggling to make new friends during this time of COVID, right? But here we are, like living examples of the internet empowering us to reach people across the world to connect with them. So it's possible. And thank you so much, Cyrus, for being on. Yeah.
No, most definitely. Yeah, I think Fuad touched on this in a podcast episode he was in, but actually, I reached out to Fuad through LinkedIn. Major source. I don't know how I don't have the gems like Jonathan Tester to draw for you for LinkedIn or Lynn. But no, I think that's pretty powerful over the last couple of months. So did that, then Instagram stalked each other, and boom, blossom to who we are today.
Love that.
The difference is Insta for sure. I think there's still that hesitation with LinkedIn where it's like, oh, it's still like in that professional environment. But I'm all about bringing like your entire self to work, your entire self to whatever platform you're on. And, Insta was just the way we did that. And we vibe super hard. So I'm super glad we got to meet, bro.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we messaged back and forth probably 5 days straight, with sending different styles and different stuff. So definitely a good time to just get that bonding in. But now I'm happy to be here, and let's dive into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how about we start with being your authentic self? I mean, you are such a vibrant personality, and yeah, I know we were kind of saying like it's a different part of yourself that you see on LinkedIn. But man, I just see from everything I see from like Instagram to LinkedIn, you are so consistent in just being this giant ball of positivity to everybody. And it's so refreshing just seeing that. So what really enabled you or empowered you to be able to be so consistent and authentically be yourself, regardless of what environment you are in?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, thank you. I think that it's always nice to hear that people have good things to say about you. But I think it really starts from like a really young age, right? So growing up, I was brought up by my mom, twin brother, older sister by a couple of years, and it was always about like being 100% you. And I think that was in all aspects. So when we played sports when we were younger, whether it was swimming or tennis, it was like be the best you could possibly be. And I think that often is given to us a lot. It's told to us in so many different ways, like professionally, personally. But I think for me, it was always about, like what did I want Cyrus to be? Like, who was I personally at that moment and where did I want to be? And I think kind of growing up, I was always like, okay, I want to be perceived as smart, so I need to study really hard and kind of do that. But and that's good. That's really important, prepare for everything you're doing in life. But I think around maybe the age of like 13, 14, so kind of going to high school, I was really direct and very intentional and like, you can still be professional, you can still have a good character out there, but why not be yourself with it? And me, I'm goofy, you look at my Instagram, you kind of talk to me, you figure out that on LinkedIn I'm like really professional and keep it very like straight to the point, but why not have fun with it? I think life's too long, and honestly sometimes life is too short to not bring your 100% self to the table. And I think honestly, touching on maybe a more serious note, like being a person of color, oftentimes I think you all can relate as well. Being people of color, we oftentimes have to minimize who we are, right? You oftentimes have to kind of put on a little bit uh, uh, more professional image than your maybe your white counterparts. And by no means is that necessarily on anyone in particular, but it's more like a system. So I think after a while, I stopped trying to care too much as to who was I trying to please, and why not be the Cyrus that I was happy with? Why not be that positive force? Why not why not be me? So
That's
I
beautiful,
love
man.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of speaking on the having to buff the edges out on your like cultured self. It's something like my Instagram handle, of course, is Biryani Bandito, and I had somebody come up, he's like, "What the hell is
yeah,
biryani?" I was
yeah.
trying to explain that to them. It was just it was a losing battle. It was a
Mhm.
losing battle. But man, yeah, Fuad, like, you're someone that's also. I know I'm not supposed to interview my co-host. I don't know if we're breaking the rules by doing this, but
No, yeah, fun.
Oh man.
both of you are prime examples of people who are able to be consistently their true selves, and regardless of whatever environment they're in. And my favorite part about it is that it empowers everybody else to be themselves too. Because it allows people to be more comfortable around you when they know what to expect when they get into a conversation with you.
Definitely.
And that's able to bring everybody in there. It's all
Mhm.
about inclusivity. And I know that's something that you're super passionate about, Cyrus.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best, right? I think that I'm gonna give Fuad some praise. You know what I'm saying? Compliment bombing. Shout out Jonathan Tester on that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think when first time I talked to Fuad, I reached out. I was like, hey, can I put you on my podcast? You seem really cool. And that was cool. We had a nice conversation. Like Fuad said, nothing mind blowing, but we linked up when I came to SF, and I mean, the man is even more amazing in person. People, you hear it on the podcast,
Nah.
it's awesome.
Yes,
But
sir.
no, but yeah, I mean, I think it's really about like you want to make you like you said, you want to make sure that you're being authentic, 100% authentically you, to kind of let people know that it's okay to be vulnerable with me too, right? So I think oftentimes
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I've always found myself in places where people have told me honestly like their most vulnerable stories, right? So whether this be a really happy thing or something maybe even to a point of traumatic. I remember going in college and hearing a lot of traumatic things, but a lot of people told me like, Cyrus, I really do feel comfortable talking to you, and that's just because you kind of show me who you are, and in places when
That's
it's not
awesome, man.
really acceptable to do that, right? So
Yeah.
I think it all ultimately boils down to what kind of community and what environment do you want to foster around you, and that's where it goes to. So I think lastly, maybe touch on that
Mm-hmm.
inclusivity part. For me, it's really big on kind of growing up. I've always been in spaces where uh, I was maybe a minority for a lot of things, but I've always thought of
For sure.
myself if I had a chance to change this, what would I do? So that's kind of my outlook on terms of like really bringing people together and doing that. And not to ramble too much, but I think I just I came off a meeting, scooted over here all the way from HQ for so
Top tech, bro.
on some real tech bro SF stuff. But no, my manager actually said that. He was like, Cyrus, I think one of your strengths, of course, I have weaknesses here and there. There's definitely, without a doubt. He's like, one of your strengths is to really come in. You came to the office, you just brought us together. You just had an energy around you that kept everything really positive, and you actually do try and find the positive things in everything. Like even if we're here dealing with a big bug, you're like, you know what, we can make it though, and we just started
Yeah.
laughing. So
That's
yeah, I
awesome,
think.
man. That reminds me of so many conversations I've had, like, even like throughout my time on Twitter. And like one thing that like really struck me is like, coming into my co-op terms, I always thought that the tone is kind of set by the people at the top. So what that is like, if your manager is super formal and like, never swears, never says anything like out of the ordinary, is like super, super professional with you, then it kind of forces you to, like follow suit in a sense, right? Like you're afraid to
Definitely.
be yourself because you want to appear the same way as your manager. But I actually brought this up to someone on my team at Twitter. I was like, yeah, like I try my best to like make jokes and stuff, but like sometimes it's not reciprocated on my team, sometimes it's not reciprocated in certain environments. And he told me something that like really, really stuck with me. He said, like, yes, you're right. Obviously, when somebody's in a position of authority, like to some extent, they have a little bit more responsibility with setting the tone. And, as I become in positions of more and more responsibility, potentially overseeing my own team at one day, hopefully, we'll see.
We
Um,
see,
like
definitely.
it's really important for me to bring that, that aspect to the table as well. But at the same time, that like what you mentioned about building the community that you want to be a part of is so important. Like even interns can do that. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're willing to be yourself, it just allows everybody else to like, hey, like if he's that confident doing it, like why can't I do it, right? And
Absolutely.
it transcends those, sort of like hierarchical lines of power. It transcends those like, manager intern relationships. It transcends everything. And I think you're just a perfect example there, right? Because even your manager went out his way to tell you that. So
Thank you. No, I really do appreciate that. Yeah, like you said, I don't want to beat the bush too much, but yeah, it really does. At any point, wherever you are in any organization, you have a chance to make an impact. So why not make it a positive one? That's all I can say.
for sure, man.
Mhm.
Awesome. Yeah, kind of on that note of like, like being yourself, like I think one word that I'd use to describe you as is just like happy. Like I've never seen you down. Like I don't know, maybe I just haven't known you long enough, but I've never seen you down. And like talk to us about the importance of just, being happy, doing shit that makes you feel good, the small wins in life, like how all that kind of relates to, being yourself and like having that like self-image out there.
Absolutely. Let's dive into this. So I think for a first, let's get one misconception out the way. Cyrus is sometimes not at 100% smiling, and I think that's really funny because a lot of my friends that have known me for even maybe 5 years have said like, Cyrus, I've never seen you mad. I've like it's raining outside, it's snowing, and the whole class has got a 40% on that organic chemistry test. What's up with that? I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you know what? That might have been bad. Those 2 hours ago, that was bad. Last night's all-nighter was bad. But at the end of the day, I try and keep it light. I try and keep it light over here. So I think just to honestly touch on that, I think one of the biggest things growing up was, and then we're gonna get into a little bit later, was like my aunt, right? My aunt always thinks that one thing that she always used to make us do was like you never go to sleep sad. And I think this is really sounds really funny, or you never go to sleep mad. And it sounds really funny, but to kind of give you like a story of how this went. If let's say my brother and I were arguing or anything of that nature, my aunt was always like, you always want to try and end your day on at least a decent note. And I think subconsciously kind of growing up, what that did for me was it gave me a way to kind of find a little bit of peace in almost anything that caused me a little bit of turmoil. So kind of let's put it into college perspective. A midterm that I just failed, shit, damn, that really did suck. But at the end of the day, you know what? I'm like, Cyrus, you can bounce back from this. It'll be okay. And I think what this mindset has caused me to really do was really just allow me to unlock a different perspective on a lot of things in life. So whether it be like, I think one of the biggest things is like when it came to like failure or kind of upset, I never really let it take me away with defeat. I was like, you know what? Shit, that did not go how I wanted it to. And that's not to be confused with like, in a way like toxic positivity, right? Where every moment has to be good.
Right.
Everything is kumbaya. Everything's all right. Like, that's definitely not how it is. But I think for me,
right,
I try and think like, what, Cyrus, you really don't, specific to my life, I'm like, I don't have it as bad as it possibly really could be. I have good people around me. I can find the small wins in every day, and really finding those small wins can be as much as, you know what, Cyrus, that's a nice shirt you got on today. Like, oh shit, good. You look good in the mirror today. And like maybe I'm just not having a great day, but that can do it. Or like, I think I really do like to compliment my coworkers. So let's say someone just cranked out, like for example, one of my engineers just cranked out some really awesome, like really awesome project we're working on, and I'm in Slack just going off like, woo, like 10 million emojis. Of course, not doing too much to aggravate everyone, but
the product manager we need.
They signed me. Yeah, no. I think it's a matter of like, for me personally, it was always a way of allowing me to find something positive and really like enjoyable to look forward to my day. I think like, especially when you look at this world right now, like there's so much going on, so much discrimination, so much racism, so much poverty, so much struggle of the world in general, and a lot of things we could honestly fix, but people of privilege really don't want to tackle some of these problems. Why not be that person that can at least shine a little bit of light in that darkness of a tunnel? And that sounds a little cliche, but really, I really do try and be that person for all the homies, and even in myself. I think there's days that I've had. It's honestly speaking, being very real on the podcast, because I know we keep it very, very authentic here. Like the last week has been a rough week for me. The last 2 weeks have been an extremely tough time for me, and I've been down. I've been trying to figure out like, what's bogging me, but I think at the end of the day, I've always tried to tell myself like, what, Cyrus, we'll get through it. Like, and that's I think that's one thing that people don't necessarily look as positivity as. Like they think of it as like a smiley upbeat thing, and that is, and it's beautiful like that. But I think one thing for me specifically, I try and do is just a matter of like, Cyrus, like today was a rough day. It was a rough day for us, but tomorrow we'll be able to shine a little bit brighter. So I don't know if I rambled too much. I don't know if I got to touch on that what you wanted, but yeah.
No, that was beautiful.
We embrace the rambles.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Yeah, no, I think positive self-talk. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
My bad. Positive self-talk is so important. Like it's definitely like a habit I've tried to make like more prominent in my life, because I realized that like at the end of the day, you are your own biggest fan, you know, like people can
Absolutely.
cheer for you, but at the end of the day, who's going to cheer for you when you completely fuck up, right? It's only
Absolutely.
you and maybe your mom, you know, but your moms can't be there for every moment, right?
Yeah,
And so you really got to be your own, like your own biggest fan. So thank you for mentioning that. I think that's super underrated.
absolutely. Got you.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask because are there any formal strategies that you try and employ other than maybe just, I mean, gratitude definitely is a huge thing.
Mhm.
And being intentional about finding the things to be grateful for is extremely powerful, as we've talked about on the podcast before.
Mhm.
But, you know, in those moments where you're feeling unfocused or you're feeling down and just beaten, like, what more specifically do you do to try and elevate yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this is awesome. It's a great question. I think one of the biggest things for me, kind of starting, maybe taking us back to high school, I'm thinking maybe 10th grade. So that's what, 2015? Years ago, was journaling. I started a diary and I started a really, really,
Right.
really, really, I started really strict, like every day, every morning, every evening, every night, I started journaling. And
Oh
I thought it was
man,
really funny because when I first, yeah, I know, right? It's not really, not really, I don't know if
that's a
it's
one way
as
to build a habit. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that and my attempts to do push-ups, which finally got down. But no, I think like one of my biggest things, one of my biggest proponents for like keeping this really positive mindset is journaling because it allows me a place to kind of let my thoughts run. And I think this in terms of sometimes it really is hard to express kind of that feeling of being lost or that feeling of like really not understanding why you are down to others, especially when you don't understand for yourself. So I think one of my biggest things is just journaling and sometimes just scribbling what I'm feeling. So I know that sounds silly, but maybe
Mhm.
I just have a pencil or a pen and my diary and I'm kind of just drawing lines and in a bit of a way, it allows me to kind of just calm my mind. And I think that's helped me a lot, especially recently, when life kind of just is kind of up in the swing. I think another thing is every morning I say like affirmations. And I know people will probably tell you on Instagram, like, say your affirmations, like whatever that probably people say on Tinder. I mean, not Tinder. Twitter. Yeah, no, people say, people tell you to do that, but no, I think it's really important. I think like I say one based off my name, right? So I'm like, all right, Cyrus, you're
Mhm.
compassionate, you're kind, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're loved, right? So I say that kind of every morning to myself, even when I'm not feeling too good, because I think it allows me kind of just to remind myself, you know what, these are the values that you hold yourself at, and even in the moments when you're not feeling your best and you're not like you may feel a little bit of ugly inside, you can hold strong to your values. I think one of the second things that really does allow me to like keep this really upbeat, positive energy is being very honest with people. So I think before
Mhm.
maybe a year or two, I had a really hard time saying like, I am feeling down. I'm not happy because the go-to answer is, Cyrus, how you feeling? Like, I'm great. And people just need
I'm
that for
good.
their
I'm
day.
good.
Like, yeah, like I'm good. Like
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I think especially for people that do generally have this like really outgoing, and Fuad, you probably relate to this, have this really outgoing, upbeat, positive energy. People kind of expect that out of you a lot of times. And I think
Definitely.
coming when I was
Mhm.
in college, that was hard. That was hard in the days when like, dealing with stuff, and I had my own battles
Yeah.
with like depression. And I think that was really, really hard because I had one time someone asked me like, yo, what's up with you? Like, you're supposed to get everyone's mood up. And that was the day I was feeling horrible. So I think it's just a matter of
Oh,
like, yeah, I know it was rough.
That's
I
rough,
know that
bro.
it didn't mean bad, but I
Yeah.
think for me specifically, it's like a matter of being honestly open when I'm not feeling too good. Like that really does help, and acknowledging that it's okay that I'm not feeling too amazing. So journaling, to kind of double back on that, journaling. One of my biggest things is journaling, my daily affirmations, and just being really honest with myself on how I'm feeling throughout my days really does help.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally feel you on that. And like you said, like you being honest, like encourages everyone else to be honest too. Like, yeah, obviously you're trying to be the most positive person, like uplift that energy, but I can definitely attest to it where it's like, as soon as you start being branded as that person, and the moment you're not like that and people notice, like that just gets you down even more, man. Cause then you start feeling guilty. You're like, oh wait, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be this for someone else. But like,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you gotta look out for yourself, like first and foremost, because that's like, they tell you in airplanes, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first, right? You're not helping no one if you're dead, right? You're not helping
Definitely.
anyone if you're knocked out, right? So like I think it's like super super important to highlight that honesty, because if you're not honest with yourself, no one's gonna be honest with you. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, you talked about some habits that you've had for a long time, since like high school all the way up to university. But at the same time, your journey from high school to university has been a story of a lot of pivots, I will say, right?
Definitely.
You started off in pre-med, now you're a PM, right? So talk to us a little bit about what you thought you were going to do in high school, and like sort of how that transition and changed as you entered college, because I think a lot of people can relate to that story.
Absolutely, yo. I mean, I think my journey is really, really. I mean, one that I don't think is that insanely unique, but one thing that I really think is quite interesting. So coming into college, coming to university, that's maybe about 3-4 years ago. I was on my pre-med grind. So Fuad knows about this. I was like, I will be in med school. You'll see me white coat down 4 years. I'll be out here 3 years if I'm feeling lucky, right? And I started, it went well. I mean, I think it started off well. Some classes, of course, were a struggle, but I really was doing my clinical hours. I think I was volunteering at a local clinic 3 times a week for 2 years in a row. I was trying to get all these rack letters in. And one thing that I noticed was, being a pre-med student, no one really challenged me to ever evaluate why I want to do this, right? So I think some of the majors that really do get this are humanities. So if you're a hard STEM, everyone's like, oh, they applaud you, especially when you say you're pre-med, they applaud you and they clap for you. They tell you, like, ooh, you're going to make it and you're going to be the next greatest thing. But one thing I noticed was in my classes, I lost my passion for learning. I wasn't feeling attracted every time I walked into the class. And this is something I was so fascinated with in high school. And going into my classes freshman year, they told me, like, you know what, Cyrus, it's okay. It's introductory. Don't worry about it. No one likes it. Going into my upper level classes sophomore year, they told me, you know what, Cyrus, don't worry about it. The next class will be better. You're doing good on your journey. Don't worry about it. And I kind of got a little worried of hearing that, right? Then someone told me, and I had a meeting with my advisor. This is kind of now what made me kind of double back on really questioning whether I wanted to do that pre-med. I had a meeting with my advisor, and they were like, don't worry about it. No, med school will definitely be better. And I thought to myself, there's no way in hell that you're going to tell me that genetics isn't interesting me, but working 80 hours on this exact subject is going to be interesting all of a sudden. I was like, I don't think so. So I think my breakthrough point, I was sitting in my organic chemistry class one time, and I wrote about this on one of the LinkedIn posts Damien tagged me in. And I knew I was sitting in class, and I remember some tears were falling from my eyes because I was looking at the board, and the professor was presenting something so mind blowing. And I thought to myself, that's so cool, but I don't want to be here. And I'm 2 years into my pre-med prereqs. I have a few more left. I'm prepping for my MCAT, and I'm sitting here like, oh shit, Cyrus, like, what are you gonna do? And I remember crying, full tears running out my face, hitting my paper, and I'm sitting there like, shit, man, like, what are we gonna do? Because 2 years of college being thrown away is a little scary. And I'm a first generation college student, so also I have pressure back home. Like, shit, what am I gonna tell my mom? I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot on the line right here. There's a lot of sacrifices being put right here. And I think my one saving grace with this whole process was I decided to take that second semester of my sophomore year, the semester when I decided pre-med was no longer for me. I was taking a journalism class, and I was taking a psychology class. So in that psychology class, what I was doing, I was just like really, really passionate about. I'm really passionate about mental health advocacy, and I was just in love. I was going into that class, and sitting in the front of the class, raising my hand up. I was doing homework. I was leading my own study sessions.
Homework. Oh,
Whoa, yeah, I know, right? I was doing homework, I was doing homework 2 weeks in advance, right? To the point where I was asking the professor, like, hey, can you upload this? Can you upload this to the next problem set? I really like what you're doing, right? And I thought to myself, like, Cyrus, it's a wake-up call.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, right? I was like, is this a wake-up call right here? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe you should actually consider this. If you're this passionate about it, you really like mental health advocacy, why not? And I've been working in a research lab already on the side. So I thought, okay, hey, why not do this? I think the one pushback with that is going from a really traditional STEM major to a non-STEM major, you do have a lot of people on your back. So I had advisors on my neck. I had students on my neck. I was in the chem building, and some of my friends were like, oh, what's Cyrus doing here? Like, he's not a buyer. He's not like, as a joke, but in my mind, just like psychologically, I was like, shit, it hit a little bit different because I'm like, oh shit, it is like I'm throwing it away. But nonetheless, I did that journey. And I think just to give a backtrack, over the couple of years of doing this, I was working as a program manager intern at a energy sustainability company. And similar to what I'm doing now with product, it was more product oriented. So like how Microsoft has their PMs as program managers.
Yeah.
Similar to that. And I didn't think much of like that, doing that as a career. I just knew I was really passionate about collaborating with others. I knew I was really passionate about, building products. I knew I was like, oh, this is really fun, but I'm on a pre-med journey. this is just something I do on the side, but it's fun. In an alternative universe, it'd be cool to pursue professionally. So I think taking that step away from pre-med and kind of switching my major to psychology, I really got the time to think about what did I want to do. And it kind of brought me back to revisit what I admired so much about like wanting to be a doctor and wanting to really be a physician was I really enjoyed the fact that you could problem solve. I really enjoyed the fact that you were dealing with real world issues. You could work together with people and you weren't doing it on yourself. It has to be collaboration because there's no way a surgeon's walking into an operation room with himself or herself or themselves and just saying like, oh, I'm doing this. Like, it's definitely not an I solo thing. And I thought to myself, why not check that out a little bit? So I dove into that really heavy into my junior year. And a couple interviews later, a couple of stalking people on LinkedIn later, I kind of landed myself into a really, really awesome PM position at a startup here in the Bay. And we can definitely dive into that, but just to let you touch on that's what my journey looked like so far.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful journey, man.
I just wanted to say, there's one thing I think you're wrong about. Because like kind of at the start, you said you don't have those gems like Jonathan Tesser, but there's something to be said about just being vulnerable and open and honest about the experiences that you've been through that allow people to resonate so deeply with the things that you're saying. Because, I saw parts of myself in your story and you are a tremendous storyteller. Like I was going through that story, like I was choking up. I'm like, damn, bro, like I was in your shoes. Like I wanted to cry. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't have anybody to consult. I needed a podcast like this, to hear that other people are going through the same things that I was going through. And it is so hard to bet on yourself in those moments, especially when it feels like the odds are so stacked against you and you don't hear, let alone see about people making that same transition. Because there's such a high honor and standard to pursuing paths like that, right?
Definitely.
And to deviate from that is like admitting defeat. And people don't want to acknowledge that, oh, you're not doing this anymore just because you don't want to. Maybe it's because you can't, or for whatever reason, right? And then you find ways to invalidate the things that you're feeling, and it's just this whole chaotic, abysmal rabbit hole that you end up going into. So thank you so much for sharing that. I found a lot of value in that too. So I'm sure like a bunch of people can share that as well.
Absolutely.
So you had something to say about that as well, Fuad?
Yeah, no, I gotta say the same thing. Like I started off pre-med, like, I'm in biomedical engineering. I'm still in the biomedical engineering. I didn't even take the, leap of faith to kind of switch majors and stuff. But like, yeah, man, I found myself in that story so much. And like one thing, like I really want to like provide value for like, people who are listening and might be going through something similar. So like one question I want to ask you is like, how did you approach some of those difficult conversations, with like you're a first generation student and not, I'm very lucky my parents in the university. But like, there's still like so many expectations around that. How did you approach that conversation with your parents? How did you expect those conversations with your peers? Like, how did you draw upon your support network to really like, like drive home that decision and like be confident in making that decision?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, let's take this back. Okay. Well, I think firstly, by no means was it absolutely confident when I first thought of it. I want everyone listening to know that it wasn't that I was like, I'm done with pre-med, I'm leaving. I just want everyone to know
For sure.
It definitely wasn't an easy thing to kind of get over. I think one of the biggest things was at the time I had a significant other, and she was really, really supportive and like challenging me. She was a pre-med student, killer grades, so kind of top of the class. And she said, like Cyrus, if like you tell other people to like follow what they want to do, why don't you take your own advice? And I thought to myself, like, shit, all right, shots fired. Like, someone's kind of challenging me to stop being a hypocrite. And she was like, you really do like to preach, the importance of like really pursuing what it is that you want to do, no matter what someone's going to tell you. Like, why don't you do that? And this is coming from another first generation student. And I was like, but I'm not like a first generation student, like family back home. I really want to make sure I can take care of everyone. Being a pre-med student, I'm not really enjoying it right now, but I know at the end of the road, stability lies there. And that's a hell of a wrong way to look at that path, because in any path, especially a path where you're that committed, you'll find yourself. Or if you don't want to take yourself out, it'll weed you out, and not necessarily be saying that you can't do it, but more so, your passion just won't be there. So I think for me, like the next step, and when I acknowledge that, after me crying in class, shout out that organic 2 class. And one of the things was kind of really just sitting down and talking to my twin brother. So I told my twin brother, like, I have a twin brother, amazing bro, Shout out Edward. But yeah, no, I think the biggest thing was really just leaning on the people that I knew I could tell. I tell one person, and this person wouldn't speak a word of it, right? Just really just allow me that space to be, just talk, and really no judgment to ask. And my brother's a fucking genius. I mean, like triple major, like Cornell, all that good jazz and whatnot. But I think it really was a matter of just really talking to someone that I knew I could be vulnerable with, and really wouldn't really judge me for me wanting to pursue something that I was passionate about. That was the next step in that process. Of course, the hardest of it all was telling my mom, "Hey, mommy, I want to change my major. I don't want to go to med school anymore." And surprisingly enough, I mean, like God blessing, surprisingly enough, my mom was like, and I quote, "Okay, what's next?" And to me, I was shocked because
Love that.
I was expecting like, no.
Yeah.
Like, like you've been in this, you've been grinding out this for, at that point, almost 6 years trying to make sure I get to med school. But she was like, okay, what's next? And I think that's really a blessing. I kind of, a little bit of a different background of most like first generation students. Like my mom, when I was going to school, didn't push me to any college path, any professional development path. It was more so, whatever you do, you need to kill it. You just need to be the best at it. And the best, being the best of me, but really doing that. So I think that conversation, when we talked about it, she was like, okay, psychology's next. Where are we going with it? So that I think just that like positive affirmation I got back from like the people I really kept close in my circle really did help with it. And I mean, that's not to speak on the countless amount of times that people really did question what the hell I was doing. Why am I changing? You cannot handle it. Pre-med weeded you out. I think that like these are very natural things that you get in any kind of pivot. And I think two of the biggest things I guess to like touch on would be you first kind of have to find that peace in yourself, because no matter who you talk to, no matter where you look, if you don't feel comfortable and confident and like eventually like solely in yourself, like it's hard. It's so hard. And I guess the second part is really, as Fuad said, trying to lean on that circle. Like, and it doesn't have to be an advisor. It doesn't have to be someone who's so well established. It can be, I don't know, at that point in college, it can be the janitorial staff kind of cleaning your dorm that, want to talk to people, anyone that you can really find and that's willing to listen and that, and give you some meaningful feedback. I think it's really important.
Well, that's awesome. I think I know where you got your podcast genes, because that question from your mom,
yeah,
that's a podcasting question. That's an amazing question to ask. What's next? Like, props to your mom, because like, I don't know, like one thing for sure is support circles are so important. You got to know that somebody's there for you, got your back no matter what. And like, for sure, for me, that person is my mom. So like 100%. Like, I know that I've come to her with so many decisions, and like, even if she doesn't have like, like specific career goals and things like that for me, she always has my back no matter what. So I'm super glad that was the case for you. And, hopefully anyone listening kind of gets that feeling of like, rely on the people you need to rely on, and like be confident in making the decision yourself, for sure.
Absolutely. I think just to touch on that is like, and oftentimes it's such a major decision, a lot of people might not even support you. I think like that's something to really understand, that you make a major change like that. Sometimes you might not get zero support, but I think it leads back to Fuad's earlier point in the podcast. Like, you have to be your number one fan no matter what. You really, really, really do. And it's really hard to develop, but you really have to be there for yourself no matter what, because at the end of the day, you live with the decisions you make. So, do what's best for you.
For sure. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. On that note about podcasts, you've got your own podcast. It's called the whoami.podcast. So tell us a little bit about, why you started that podcast, because we talked a little about the story about how we started this podcast here. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how you started it, why you started it. What are some of the lessons you've learned through building it?
Yo, all right, let's dive into this. So I do run a podcast. It's called Who Am I? With Fuad being my first guest. Woo! And just to give you kind of a background of what it is. So pretty much the premise of the podcast is sharing these stories, unique stories of individuals and their kind of personal and professional pursuits. And with that being said, it's kind of used as a way to show us that no matter how unique our journeys, we can always learn something from each other. And ultimately, to kind of put a basis as like why I wanted to start a podcast was, I think, about beginning of my freshman year of college. I really just wanted to talk to people. I really had this desire to meet people and like learn people and learn how I can better interact with others. And I think the biggest thing for me was like, there's so many people on this college campus. And oftentimes it's kind of just hard to approach people, especially now with Corona, but it's hard to approach someone and just start talking. But you give someone a mic on campus and doing like pickup lines or some shit, everyone's willing to hop on the camera. So I was like, if I had a podcast, I guarantee people would be willing to share their story or just like ramble about themselves a little bit, and just, just share a little bit about themselves. Cause we all have something to learn from each other. So honestly, I kind of put on the back burner kind of Fuad how you did with your first podcast. I was like, okay, well, I'll get to that eventually. I tried a little bit. I didn't even buy a mic. I tried to talk to a few friends, kind of died out. And during this Corona period, I was kind of feeling a little isolated, and I thought to myself, shit, what can I do to I know there's other people probably out here feeling this. What can I do to kind of help out others? And I put on my Snapchat story one day as a joke. I was like, yeah, what would you guys do if I ran like a late night talk show talking to others? And people were like, oh, do it. And I was like, why don't I just start a podcast? Why don't I just start that podcast that I've been wanting to start, like a while ago? Mm-hmm. And of course, some brainstorming. And eventually I thought, I could just do this over Zoom. I could call people up, or I use different platforms, and I could just talk to people. I can just have people talk about themselves and kind of share something with the world. And, it doesn't, honestly, the goal was never to have it. The goal was never to really have any type of sort of clout or anything of that nature. Not to be like I have clout, not to say that. Like,
I mean, you kind of do, bro. You kind of do. All my friends that know you, they're like,
but
who's that guy?
Thank you. No, I think ultimately the goal was just to have this kind of for lack of a better word, B-roll of just talking to people and just having people, just even giving people a chance to talk about themselves. Because how often is it that someone asks you about your life and asks you like, who am I? I think that question isn't there, and oftentimes you don't get time to really reflect on like what our journey has held. And I think that at the end of each interview that I have, a lot of people tell me like shit, thanks, Cyrus. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, you gave me content. They're like, no, like, thanks. Like, I've never had a chance to kind of reflect on what I've done, and it kind of makes me validate why I made this decision or question why I'm doing this. So ultimately, yeah, it's been such an awesome experience. I've talked to, phenomenal people like you, to say the least. I've talked to really awesome, I think like some people are like Grace from Product Buds, just really, really awesome people, like some engineers here and there. And I'm definitely trying to diversify the group. I want to make sure it's really inclusive of all people in their journey, so we all kind of have the representation and inclusivity. But I think the biggest takeaway from it for me has been you really get to see people I'm gonna just put it like this. So a lot of the people I bring on the podcast, I get them through LinkedIn, and it's so fun to see how multidimensional people are versus just like a one-page read away of a resume or kind of like a profile, right? And I think you can get a good grasp of like some really awesome profiles on LinkedIn, but the biggest thing for me is like, we're just people. We're honestly just people, and yeah, like online we want to look nice, but why we all have something to give to the world. We all have something to share. And I really do like, it kind of leads to my point of empathy. I really do like learning from people and trying to understand the world a bit better, because shit, what do I know in terms of, everyone out there? I don't. And what do I know in terms of doing podcasts? I don't. But I just try, and, so far so good. Definitely have taken a little break off, and as work has just been, a little bit of roller coaster here and there, but we're definitely cranking out some episodes coming soon. So stay tuned.
For sure. And just let us know when you want us to share, because we highly recommend anyone listening to this podcast to, if you like this, you'll love Who Am I, for sure. So. Yeah, no, I think we can relate like so much. Like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. No, you keep going.
my bad. We keep doing this. My bad. It's all Zoom.
I like how polite y'all are to each other. Like,
we'll cut it out there.
Oh, dude! After this interview, David is done, bro. David is done. I don't want to put that on cam. No, I'm joking. I was gonna ask, like, we definitely relate on like so many levels, because like, we really thought that this like podcast would be about us sharing our journeys, but like at the end of the day, like just bringing that out of somebody else is like so amazing, just because like, not only you learning, but like you're allowing other people to experience that self-reflection, which is so important. So I wanted to ask you, like, what is something that like super surprised you about the podcast? Like, what's something you were not expecting at all that you learned about yourself, like through doing the podcast?
Oh, shit. That's a great question.
I try, bro. I try.
Oh, that's actually a really, really good question.
Because I'm trying to get you to self-reflect too, man.
Yeah. I do my own Who Am I.
You give your tissue of medicine.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't know. I've always. Ooh, all right, cool. Oh, all right, okay. Well, I think one of the biggest things I guess I've learned, or surprising things I've learned from this, is to be honest, like how passionate I am about people. And that sounds really silly, but I knew I like to bring good energy here and there, but I didn't realize like how generally intrigued I am just to like learn about different people's experiences, and like the desire to bring that to someone else and show them how we really are connected. And I think the reason why I'm saying that is especially given times of today, like social climate, there's a lot of like crazy shit going on, to be honest. And a lot of stuff that's not necessarily excusable, and that's not to give you that cop out, like, we're all the same, because we're definitely not. We're all different people of different cultures, different ethnicities, and different identities. So that's not to break away that individualism, but really, really, it kind of opened up my eyes to like this burning desire I have to, just like let people know that like ultimately we are unified, and whether you decide to stand on the side of like unified people and bringing people together, acknowledging our differences and the beauty and individuality, but really understanding that at the end of the day, we all are people trying to shape our lives in a way that ultimately, brings us satisfaction and joy. And I think for most people that really comes from a point of wanting to, fulfill some sort of goal or some sort of dream that you chase as a passion, right? Like we're all passionate. We all have different passions, different ideas, but like I didn't realize that through the podcast I would get the chance to even kind of see myself in people's journeys. I didn't know that me listening to people and asking questions would allow me to even kind of take a little step back and like, oh shit, like interesting. Like you never thought about yourself. You never kind of had that time to reflect. So I guess like a way that I've been able to, a realization from it was it kind of made me more cognizant of kind of the way I'm living my life. And like the way I'm actively trying to shape my own journey, and what I know that's a really hard thing to do daily, but kind of like a weekly reflection on what I did to like proactively work towards a goal, and just proactively work towards being a better person.
Great answer, man. Great answer. Are you
Yeah,
still
it
journaling,
reminds
by the
me
way?
of the George R.R. Martin quote. Ooh. Yo, my call is like lagging like a second behind whatever you guys are saying, but
No, you're good. You're good. We'll edit it out. Don't worry. But yeah, go ahead.
anyways. Yeah, we can get it after. No, but like what you're saying just reminds me of the George R.R. Martin quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but something along the lines of, "The one who reads lives 1,000 lives before his death. Those who don't live but one." And podcasting is like it's a revolution kind of in the way that we consume information. And really through these interviews that you hear people doing, you get to live a couple different lives through too. Like as you hear people sharing their stories, you get to see the inner mechanics of what happened, what they were thinking, how they were feeling through all those transitions. And you get to learn so much through that. You don't even have to make some of those mistakes or go through those experiences yourself to put yourself in their shoes. I think it really does help build such a powerful community because it builds empathy. You get to see that we are all way more similar than we seem on the surface. And
Absolutely.
it's hard, like you're saying, that this facade, this persona people project of themselves online, it can be vastly different from who they are. And they might, I mean, you, for example, your online persona is only a tenth of like the ball of joy and positivity that you are in person. So, um, building up that community, building up that empathy, learning more about yourself and learning more about how the world works. There's so many positive externalities through taking on ventures like this. So I would highly recommend and urge people just to do the thing that they've been meaning to do, because it's so weird how things can just fall into place. There's this term pronoia, which is that the universe is conspiring behind your back to make you success. And I love that. And I try to fully embrace that. And if you can let the universe help you out, then you're just going to see so much more success, so much more joy, so much more positivity in your life for it.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, no, we've talked a little bit about paranoia like before, and like I don't know, man. Like the fact that we met each other, that just feels like some paranoia to me, bro. Like that like, man, you reached out to me too. Like, I didn't even know. I tried to look for your podcast. I was like, dude, there are no episodes out there. Like, what does this guy say? And like, man, like, I'm so happy I said yes. I looked him up. I was like, at least his profile is sick. Like, I gotta say yes, right? And then, man, it was such a crazy, turn of events, and I'm so glad it happened. Yeah. So honestly, if we might have to run this back because like we could talk for hours. So I want to get through a couple more questions just to make sure that we get them through, and then we can get to some freestyles as well. And so one of our favorite questions to ask on this podcast, and I'm sure you've heard it before because you're a day one fan. And so I know you've been prepping this answer too, because, you're just that type of guy. You're that type A kind of person that preps their answers for these things, right? So if you could put any one message on a billboard, what message would you put in that billboard and why? And that billboard is reaching millions, if not billions of people. You can cater your audience to whoever you want, or you can just make it, 7.59 billion people that we're at right now.
Absolutely. I prepared for this answer since before December. I've heard you ask it a couple of times. No, I'm joking. No, honestly, the first time I heard this question, it just made me think. It just kind of made me challenge myself and start talking out loud when I was driving. But if I had a billboard and I could put anything up on this, to be 100% honest, it would have read something along the lines of, if you could be one thing on this, if you could only be one thing in this earth, be empathetic. And I know that sounds really simple, and it doesn't sound like some crazy, mind-blowing, thought-provoking thing, but to be completely honest, why I say that is because I truly, truly, truly do believe that empathy really has so much undermined power in this world, and our ability to just enjoy life a lot more, right? And I mean this from the fact of be empathetic in the way you approach others when you're asking for a favor. Be empathetic in the way you approach others when someone rubs you the wrong way. Be empathetic in the way you go about just interacting with, if someone cuts you off on the road. Those little moments that light your fuse off and make you just blow your day, right? The road rager, just the really simple things, that small, very minute things in our lives that because of the way someone else's actions affected us can throw us off completely. If you take a moment to think, hey, you know what? Shit, that person could have been having a bad day. It's all right. Or just let's put in the fact of being positive perspective. Like, you know what? I have 2 cupcakes right here. I see this person, and this is gonna put me on a tangent, but I'll get to this. I have one really good thing right here, and I see that person doesn't have anything. Why not be, or it's today's a good day. I always say today's a nice day to have a nice day. Today's a great day to have a great day, and that's one thing I say all the time in the office.
I love
that. I say that because it's always a good time to be that person to lighten up the mood, because if you think of it honestly, that you doing that one good thing and having that bit of empathy, you're paying it forward to the world, and the world will tenfold pay it back to you. And I wholeheartedly agree with this. I think in my own journey, my little bits of positivity have been paid back to me in ways that I can't even count for. I'm so grateful for it. Absolutely. But I'm going to do a little bit of a tangent before I let you touch on this. One time, Fuad and I, when we first met up, we were in SF, and we got some pizza. We had a day filled with food. And honestly, we're eating, and it was a really fun time. But, one thing that I think Fuad really showed some empathy right there was we had some pizza left over, and it was pretty expensive. I'm not going to lie, we're in SF, so, food's a little bit expensive, but hey, go off. Sometimes a good time and fun times cost a little bit of money. That's just it is. But Fuad was like, Cyrus, I know, we bought this pizza. I know it was a little expensive, but I think that one thing that we can do is really give this to someone that needs it. I think one thing that to note here in SF is, there's a lot of brilliance in mind and tech and money, but poverty, hunger, and homelessness is such a big issue. And Fuad's touched on this. The resources are here to fix it. It's still an issue. We don't know why, but hopefully one day we can do it, right? And Fuad said, Cyrus, we should give this to someone. And he was like, you know what? But one thing we want to do is make sure we're very empathetic in our approach to that person, being that we don't want to come off as that savior complex. We want to make sure we're not invading anyone's personal space. And I looked at Fuad just for a quick time. Fuad, you don't even know this, but I looked at you for a quick moment. And I was like, this is why I like this guy. It's just certain things that really attract people to you, and you can just feel a kind heart. And I looked at you and I was like, yeah, I knew something was good with him. I knew something was up. And,
Thank you, bro.
Of course.
I mean, you too, man. You brought it up as well, so can't take all credit.
Definitely. No, so I know we found this guy, and I remember we gave him the pizza. And at first, I think he thought we were just giving him a slice, or the whole box, is worries about that. And he was grateful. And what I think, just to touch on this, the tangent I was getting at was, you never know what that one good deed you did will do for someone else, right? That small input of love, affection, and even just acknowledgement that we gave someone that society necessarily isn't paying much attention to. We gave him. You never know what he'll go and do for someone else, or you never know what we did to maybe brighten his day and make him feel good about himself. You should never ever lack. You never should ever discredit small things you do to give good to the world, because it can have a tenfold effect. So that was my tangent.
For sure, man. Yeah, no, that's a beautiful story. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was
I love that.
Yeah, that moment for me too. I was like, dude, this guy is a good person. I definitely judge vibes off of people real hard. And I gotta say, man, top notch vibes, top shelf, Italian grandma chef's kiss, fresh basil type of vibes out there, bro. And that was a really good time.
Definitely.
Yeah, and like touch on some like a moral of the story that I like to take from what you guys went through there is you shouldn't underestimate the raw potential of like what kind of Rube Goldberg machine of like human empathy that can trigger. You know, like you just do this one small act of kindness for somebody else, and then they feel compelled to pay it forward. And
Hmm.
then they do something for someone else, and then they do something for someone else, and then that person does something for a different person. Then there you go. You got this
Absolutely.
Rube Goldberg machine of human kindness that stretches who knows halfway across the world. So we love to see
Definitely.
that.
Thanks so much again,
That was so much
Cyrus, for
fun.
coming on. Yeah, dude, it
Mhm.
was amazing. It was a great time. Thank you so much again for coming on the episode. And like beautiful time as always with a beautiful person. Where can people find you, Cyrus? And what stuff do you want to promo right now?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I guess like the go-to for everyone is like, yeah, professionally, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can find me at LinkedIn. I think probably searching up would be best. So Cyrusbelsoi, Belsoi, because I got that sauce, like soy sauce. No, we can cut that, but I actually don't do that. But yeah. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can find me there. I give the actual link, but it has a star in it, so it's a lot of like numbers. But yeah, anyway, if you want to find me on like Instagram for a more personalized look, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at sci-fi sci. So that's SCIFICY. And if you are interested in checking out the podcast, you can find me on all your major streaming platforms at Who Am I. And yeah, just take it a listen. Always welcome to bring such awesome people onto the show. And just like talk to people. Yeah. So definitely if you want to reach out, connect, you like what you want to hear, carry a conversation offline. More than happy to do that. And spread some more positivity to other people out
Yeah. Thank you for making our day better. You know,
there. Oh,
like
thank you for making my day better. Honestly, this is the biggest thing I've been looking forward to in the last week. So
That's
definitely.
awesome, man.
love that. Ooh. Yeah. All right. It's been hella positivity, hella love. Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, Fuad, as always, for your time today. And we'll definitely run it back sometime.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Take care, people.